Hey guys, we are the Texas Hold'em group and we're making an application for the Android phone. I'm Francesca, this is John, Changmin, and Vinny. And we're going to be going into basic overview of the gameplay and how the hands are scored, as well as the SDK that we used from Android, some of the Java classes that we have, and also what kind of AI we use in the game. Alright, I'm going to go over the gameplay and the scoring. So you have one dealer person, and then the next the person immediately to the right is the small blind, and we chose to have a small blind of $10 and big blind of $15. Everyone starts off with $200 in the beginning of the game. First, there's two face-down cards dealt to each player. Since we're implementing a single-player game for right now, you can see your own cards down here, and then the communal cards are over here, and then the computer's cards are all up here, and you can't see those. So for the betting, there's three different options. You can call, raise, or fold. Call, you can just match whatever the previous person has bet. Raise, you bid more than what the previous person bet, and the maximum bet is the amount that you have in your stack. Or you can fold just with dropping around. And you can see the different options up here. And there's the communal cards, which are these three. At this stage, this is the flop, where there's just the three communal cards that are being shown. And then after each round, there's one round of betting, and then you have a communal card added twice until the final round. For the scoring, we're going to use a hand comparator algorithm, and basically each hand is going to be given a specific score according to what kind of content they have in their hand. So as you can see here, the most basic point you can get is just having a high card. If no one has anything, it's based on who has the highest cards. And then you can have pairs, three of a kind, straight, which is just numbers in a row. It doesn't have to be the same suit. A flush, which is all numbers in the same suit. Full house, four of a kind, straight flush, and then the ultimate is if you have a royal flush, which is ace through 10 of one suit. And so this comparator algorithm is going to compare the score between the players, a numeric value, and then the highest of these scores wins. Now I'm going to pass it over to John. He's going to go over the SDK that we use to make this application.
So the Android SDK breaks down into different levels. It's a Linux variant that recently sort of branched off the main line. The highest level is your basic applications that come built into the phone itself, like a contact manager and a phone call, the actual application, web browsing, and so forth. And then below that, a little deeper, is the application framework that you can tap into, and that includes the resource manager, the location manager, the notification manager, and so forth, which are all built on top of built-in libraries. There's an SQLite database built in, there's 2D graphic engine, a 3D graphic engine, WebKit for JavaScript. It's pretty robust, the libraries that are built in. And that runs alongside the Android runtime with the native libraries and so forth. And then below that, you actually get into a specialized Linux kernel and everything that's involved with the system itself. So building an application for Android involves views, which are basically UI elements. They could be lists or grids or text boxes or anything you associate with user interaction. And those work with content providers which share data between different applications and the database and any other data source you could really think of. And your application can use, like I talked about before, the notification manager. So if Wi-Fi is in range or you want to alert a new text message or whatever it may be. And all of this runs at the discretion of an activity manager, which does memory management, lifecycle management, and a number of different housekeeping activities. So when you approach building an application on Android, you break it down into different parts. The first is the activity, which is basically a user interface that does a certain task. So for instance, if you have a text messaging application, an activity would be message composition. Another activity would be message retrieval. Another activity would be looking up a contact and so forth. So your program is going to have different activities depending on what the user is trying to do at the moment. And these interact with services which run in the background, don't have any UI to interact with, but actually do most of the work. And you can link that up with broadcast receivers, which run in a certain section of memory and receive any information that you ask it to listen for. So you can look for is signal low, is battery low, and so forth. And then, like I said before, the content providers share data in between different applications. The actual tools we use include an Eclipse plugin, which is pretty nice, and then their emulator they call an AVD, an Android Virtual Device, and this is actually what it looks like. And it's pretty cool. It's actually, the phone actually runs on your computer. You boot it once. It takes a minute or two to boot up. And then every time you recompile your Java application, you literally install it into this emulated phone and then run it. So it's pretty robust, and it's taken a while to get used to the SDK, but once you have hit baseline, prototyping is pretty fast. We've liked working with it so far. So Betty's going to take you through some of our Java classes that interface with this.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm just going to go over basic setup of our game. We have a player class that will hold all the information about the actual player, like their name, how much money they have, whether or not they're pulled in for the sake of like betting rounds or anything like that. And also, obviously, their hand. We have card class, just a suit and a number, which we use to make up things like deck class, which is a stack of 52. As methods to get the top card or shuffle the deck after a round. We have our hand class, which is just the array of the 2 cards that you get, but it'll also hold methods that will take care of like the scoring of the hands and stuff, so we can declare a winner at the end of the round. And the THM class, short for Text Hold'em, is kind of where like all the game state is. It's got like a pot and community cards and a pointer to the dealer that will move each round. And as we went over, the community cards are the flop, the turn, and the river. Now, Changman's going to take care of the AI section.
Alright, so just go over real quick some of the ways that our AI works. One of the most important things in how our AI works is perceived player strength. We're going to call that PPS for the sake of shortening that up. And basically what it is it's a value that you store for each opponent player, and it's your perceived idea of their strength. So basically, if I think that this player is a weak player, then this PPS will be lower for that specific player compared to a different player. And how it works is it starts at a neutral value because we don't really have any information, so we're going to say, all right, this is our baseline if we have no information on this player. And then every time that that player makes a good move, which we classify amongst other things as betting an appropriate amount for the hand they have, or if they fold a previously strong hand if it's no longer good. So if they make a smart choice, then we decide that this player is good, so we're going to increment their PPS. And likewise, we're also going to decrement their PPS if the player makes a bad move. And a lot of these things, obviously, we won't be able to tell until it gets down to what's called the showdown, which is at the end. If all of the players decide that they want to stay in, and you show your cards to see who's going to win. At that point, you can go back and make some calculations depending on did this player have any idea what they were doing when they made this bet, or should they have folded at this point. So that's when all the calculations are done.